I came out with a PvP video a while ago called the Boomer Scrapper because it used the flamethrower very liberally to basically do everything for you, and you could win with only pressing one button. However, that build is easy to focus, melee ranged, easy to outplay, and lacks mobility. While it can be good in PvP and PvE, in World vs. World roaming where mobility, burst, and sustain are king and you'll often be in outnumbered situations, you'll want to run something else. So here is my Zoomer Scrapper build. It's called the Zoomer Scrapper build because it has what the Boomer Scrapper is missing. It has really long range from the mortar, permanent access to quickness and super speed, and lots of counterplay. I warn you though, if you're not fond of pressing your buttons really fast, you won't get as much value out of this build. With permanent quickness and mortar autos, you can get some serious damage output, but you really need to be on top of the keyboard to do so. The main idea is that the kinetic accelerators trait grants quickness whenever you gain super speed, and because super speed stacks now, you can put on tons of super speed all at once to get quickness on a full Berserker build, and use the utility of Scrapper, the long range of mortar, and mobility of super speed to survive. The equipment is full Berserker with Zephyrite Rune. Zephyrite Rune grants longer super speed durations and gives super speed on using an elite skill. Since Mortar Kit is an elite skill with no cooldown, you can keep toggling that kit to gain super speed and therefore quickness up time. The weapon I use is the hammer with the Sigil of Cleansing and Sigil of Agility. Because there are no other cleanses in the build, you need the Cleansing Sigil, which would trigger when you swap in and out of Mortar Kit on a 9-second internal. So when you need to cleanse, just swap in or out of your Mortar Kit. Just remember the ICD. Agility Sigil grants swiftness and quickness when swapping your weapon, which is also when you go in and out of Mortar Kit. You don't really need swiftness since you have permanent super speed, but because of the object in motion trait, having swiftness on you will grant 5% damage increase. So it's like a force sigil that also gives quickness. This means if you swap out of your Mortar Kit to do some hammer combos, you can perform quick burst without any setup. And I would just use any kind of power ferocity food like the bowl of curry butternut squash soup or anything like that just to get more damage. The traits I take are Alchemy, Explosives, and Scrapper. Take the basic alchemy traits that give you elixir synergy with HGH and elixir E. Compounding chemicals will give more sustain the more boons you put out. Then go for invigorating speed, which is very good for the explosives trait line because the more you dodge, the more you get explosive entrance. And in explosives, you want to be taking short fuse and explosive temper because whenever you hit with an explosion, you will gain fury and a ferocity stacking buff. The hammer 2, explosive entrance, and all of the damaging skills on your Mortar Kit will count as explosions, and if they hit multiple targets, they will grant multiple stacks of the ferocity buff. Then you take Big Boomer for the most damage possible. In Scrapper, I take Mass Momentum because I have really high uptime on stability with this build using Defense Field and the Elixir U, which will give me more might while I have stability. Also, giving my Function Gyro stability allows me to make more plays with it landing my finishers or to revive allies. Object in Motion grants 5% more damage per each of the 3 buffs, Super Speed, Swiftness, and Stability. Since I have permanent Super Speed on this build, lots of stability and lots of swiftness, and all of that has pretty much no cast time on it, it's very easy to get all 3 of those buffs at the same time for 15% extra damage. Then take Kinetic Accelerators, which grants quickness on super speed. Let's count all the super speed applications on this build. There is Elixir H, there is the Tool Belt Elixir H, there is the Elixir U Tool Belt, there is also the Mortar Kit with the Zephyrite Rune proc, and there's also going to be Elixir U, which doesn't give you super speed, but it does give you a lot of quickness. With this amount of super speed and quickness, you can really outplay your enemy so long as you make use of it. The hammer skills are slow and clunky, but with quickness, they can feel really good. Even the auto attack feels really good to use. The Electro Whirl does good burst in melee range and can reflect projectiles from afar. Rocket Charge is a high damaging leap attack with very small windows of evasion. It isn't super safe while doing the Rocket Charge, but if you swap into Mortar while doing your Rocket Charge and then use the weapon swap key to drop the kit after your last hit of Rocket Charge, you can stow the aftercast to make it feel much better. The skill also does 2 leap finishers, which can be really good inside your mortar kit combo fields. Shock Shield is just a short block which does a little bit of damage and vulnerability, and Thunderclap is a really long range stun which pulses out damage in a spot. This is good for setting up combos or cleaving down bodies. Elixir H is a reliable heal which gives swiftness and protection. It will also give quickness to nearby allies since Scrapper gives nearby allies super speed on healing. Bulwark Gyro is a good barrier to protect your low HP pool, and the Toolkit Defense Field gives stability to you and nearby allies when it is cast and blocks projectiles. Elixir S is your standard get out of jail free card, but it also allows for playmaking to get invuln stomps or to res allies. The Tool Belt Elixir S is just stealth which can help you and your allies disengage. Elixir U is a stun break that gives long durations of stability and quickness for no animation. Generally, I just like to use this offensively because stability also grants might, and if you end up needing the stun break later, you have Elixir S. The Elixir U tool belt will grant super speed, which means allies will get some quickness as well, and it will break stun for allies. When swapping to your mortar kit, know that you will get your sigils to proc, so if you need to, wait for a cleanse to do that. Also, if you use your weapon swap key while holding your mortar kit, it will go back to hammer, but not proc the Zephyrite rune, because you technically did not use the skill. So you can choose when to proc the Zephyrite runes by which key you use to drop the mortar kit, allowing you to choose when you want your burst with quickness. While in mortar kit, the 2, 3, and 4 skills all deal damage, but they have an effect to them. The 2 is just poison, while the 3 is a chill field, and the 4 is a blind field. So you want to use all of these first before you run out of them, and then you just want to spam the 1 skill. Since the mortar kit has such a wide arc and long range, it can often be hard to land the mortar kit on enemies who are moving. So what you'll want to do is go to your options here, and you want to enable instant ground targeting, and what this will do is it'll make wherever you cast go to your mouse's cursor without you having to let go of the button. And with allow skill retargeting enabled, this can allow you to basically run around and spam the mortar kit, and you can even change the direction in which it's going to go halfway into the casting of the skill because of the skill retargeting. Essentially, this will allow you to be more mobile, to be better at leading on where your enemies are, and to essentially do more damage. The skill 5 on mortar is a water field, which will heal you, and you can use your hammer 3 to leap finisher through it for some healing finishers. Finally, the function gyro is a great utility skill for reviving and stomping enemies. Cast it on a downed enemy or ally and it will summon the function gyro, which will perform the appropriate function but is a very squishy object that can be easily killed. You can also use the function gyro to deal damage to enemy players with almost no animation, and it'll also proc the explosive entrance. I like to start out with the mortar kit, just spam out the chill field because that can really help you to land your mortar attacks when they can't move as much. It's easier to hit them, and just bait out cooldowns, maybe some dodges, and if you get a really big advantage from the mortar at the start, then you can really have a big advantage because it does so much damage. And once you're ready to engage, you'll probably thunderclap them, and then if you're in range, you'll hammer 2, or you can rocket charge, which will be a daze combo leap finisher, which can really lock people down while you're doing good damage to them. Once you're out of the electro whirl and rocket charge, you can shock shield to wait for the second electro whirl back, or I would just immediately go into the mortar and keep doing damage on that. The hammer auto attack is really kind of low value because you're taking a lot of damage if you're in melee range. But if you're having trouble landing your mortar on someone because they're moving around too fast, you may want to stick to them with the hammer autos. But yeah, otherwise, I would just stick to the mortar and get your quickness up. with your tool belt skills, and if you want to, you can also use the elixir U sometime in there. Mostly you want to have quickness for your mortar because the hammer abilities don't really scale too well with quickness because they're all like rocket charges, a leap skill, so it's going to be basically an animation that you can't really control. And then electro whirl, once it starts casting, it'll kind of cast on its own and has a really long aftercast even if you have quickness. So you really want the quickness with your mortar abilities, and yeah, you just want to basically spam mortar, and when you can go in for a little bit of a hammer burst, go do that, and then kite in between your cooldowns with super speed, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Here is an outnumbered situation where you can see how much value I get from initiating with my mortar because it pressures them so hard before they're even in range to hit me. Now I need to rotate through my cooldowns here. I use the defense field at first to invalidate a lot of the projectiles that are going to be attacking me, so that'll give me more time to get in there and get like a kill or something before I actually start taking too much pressure. And now that defense field is on cooldown, I use terrain and kite. So while your cooldowns are up, you want to play aggressive, and then when your cooldowns are down, you want to use that super speed to really get out of there and use terrain and mobility with the mortar to keep up the pressure but still play a little bit safer. I land a really good stun there into most of my damage, but I get knocked down. I cleanse with the mortar kit there, so I don't instantly die, and I luckily get out of there with the super speed. I see one of them is low, and I land a quickness mortar combo on them from afar, which downs them. So really good damage there from afar that they couldn't really expect too much. So I land my stun, which will also damage them, so I can get the elixir S stomp. And then I use my hammer rocket charge and get the second down there. But I play a little bit safely here by going into stealth to kind of bait them to go for the res. And then I go into mortar, and the quickness mortar is just way too much for them to res through. And the cleave goes out with my function gyro, and now it's just a 1v1. And I put down the chill field, and I'm going to rocket charge through the chill field so that I get chilling aura, which is going to reduce the damage that I take, and it's going to chill them more to make sure that I can get the kill. Here's a 1v1 with a Hollowsmith, and the advantage against a Hollowsmith is that I have a lot more stability than them, but they can potentially do more damage with the Hollow Forge. So I really want to play around when they go into Forge and essentially use my cooldowns to survive when they go into Forge, or to counterplay their Forge and not get hit by that burst. So the stability here was a little bit late, so I took a bit of damage, but my Hammer 3 gives me a lot of trading potential because it evades while doing damage. And then while I have things on cooldown, I'm going to use my super speed and mortar kit, and they don't really have as much quickness as me, so my mortar is a lot more dangerous. So here I land a really good stun on them, but they have protection, a lot of protection on their build, so I really have to do quite a bit of damage to get through their health here. But I put some mortars behind me, and that actually hits them pretty hard. I'm actually taking a lot of damage too, so I have to be careful here. But yeah, we're both pretty low. I have my heal skill up, he uses his heal skill, and I'm just spamming my mortar and try to keep a little bit of distance while they're in Forge. I have my blocks up so I can use that while they're in Forge, and my evade there, so I'm trading very well because I'm using my defensive / offensive to counter pressure while they're in Forge. And now they're low enough that I land a ton of my mortar hits on them while they're in stealth, and I get the kill. So here I am poking at a Condi Rev with my mortar from afar, and they engage me in a 1v1. I get jumped on by a Mesmer, so I go into Elixir S and I kite out because this is really dangerous. This is one of the worst matchups because usually Condi classes are very slow, and even though I don't have a lot of Condi cleanse on this build, as you can see, I'm really struggling to get my mortar kit cleanse there. I finally get it, but usually Condi classes are slow and I can outplay them with the super speed. And this Rev has, they have Malix and Glint, but still, if I want to interact with them, I kind of need to get close to them a little bit. So I'm using the terrain over here to try to resustain and to maybe get them in a spot where they can't dodge my abilities. And I get quite a bit of an advantage here while hitting them with my mortar kit, but I do kite off because I want to get this torment off me. I cleanse it off, so I'm kind of back on my cooldowns now. I'm not so far behind on the cleansing sigils. So I re-engage on my aggressiveness, but they are a Condi rep, so I do have to be very careful. This is not a build with a lot of cleanse on it, so I have to really be careful and keep my distance while also, yeah, they have their instant cast swap there, which will give me like all those Condis, so I really need to be careful there. I do go in, but yeah, I get like a lot of torment here. I cleanse, so I'm doing okay right now. But yeah, they put all that torment back on me, so I'm going back up to the kite spot here, and I will need to cleanse that. Okay, so I don't need to cleanse anymore. I do cleanse, so I actually wasted my cleanse there by swapping into the mortar kit, so that's something you have to be really careful of. So I die there because I got off the terrain too fast, and I wasted my cleanse on a bunch of like cover Condis, so that is unfortunate. But you cannot beat everyone, and that's a good showing of the weaknesses of the build, is when stuff can stick to you, like revenants, thieves, and even like a Condi mesmer. So if you like this kind of video, then give it a like, subscribe, and check out the description for any links to support me. You can also become a patron, which I would greatly appreciate, and I will see you guys next time.